Welcome to this video on recent Supreme Court cases. The case we're going to be looking at today is the application of Imam against London Borough of Croydon. This is a 2023 case and was considered in the UK Supreme Court. First of all, let's have a little look at the facts and background to the case. Imam was given unsuitable accommodation for their disability by the local authority. Now, this was not disputed and was accepted by the local authority. The local authority's argument was that they'd done the best they could with the resources they had. This went to the High Court. The High Court accepted the argument that they'd done the best of the resources they had, and so chose not to give a mandatory order. This was appealed to the Court of Appeal, and the Court of Appeal accepted the appeal of Imam, saying that there had to be a mandatory order given, and it is not sufficient for the local authority to argue that they'd done the best of the resources they had. So the Court of Appeal said, when considering whether to give a mandatory order, financial limits is not a reason. The local authority instead has to prove with other evidence and explain why available housing has not been given. Now, the local authority appealed to the Supreme Court, and Imam also complained that an order should be given whether or not the local authority has any available property. The outcome of the Supreme Court case was that the Supreme Court held that general funding pressure is not a reason for failing to complete a duty under Section 193(2) of the Housing Act 1996, and this is a duty to provide suitable accommodation to a homeless individual. Now, the Supreme Court rejected both appeals, the appeal from the local authority and also the appeal from Imam, because they suggested that the court could consider local authority resources in terms of considering what remedy should apply. So next, let's have a little look at the reasoning of the court in coming to the decision that funding is not a reason for failing to complete the duty and should only be considered in terms of remedy. So, first of all, the court said the local authority had a duty given by Parliament, and so funding should not be the reason for failing to complete it. Now, the court will decide the remedy, whether that be a mandatory order or another remedy, depending on the situation, and this is because remedies are discretionary. Now, the local authority has to explain why a mandatory order shouldn't be given, and another remedy should be given instead. And this might include things like why the emergency fund cannot be used, or how long the breach has been going on for, or whether there's a serious impact on the individual, or what the local authority is actually doing at the moment to try and improve the situation. Because the court also has to consider and balance claims of other people, and therefore a mandatory order might not be a suitable remedy. So let's have a little look and evaluate the result of this case. Now, if we look at some of the commentary, Daly, in his blog, considers an administrative law perspective of the case. Now, Daly suggests that Lord Sales uses administrative law principles within the case law and considering the principles of the fact that a remedy should be given because of the individual rights at stake and also the fact that there is a breach, and that there actually needs to be clear justification for the discretion to not give a remedy and not to give a mandatory order and to give another remedy instead. And this is because giving a mandatory order will ensure good administration. However, there is a slight competence question here because the local authority has to balance their resources and their finances for different issues, and the court should not usurp this. So there is a question of competence as well. Thank you for listening to this video on the recent Supreme Court case. Now, if you want more information, you could look at Daly's blog on administrative law matters and look at the recent article on this. And if you've got any further questions, feel free to contact me on thelawguide@outlook.com. Thank you for listening.